See the whole online abuse thing. See someone who's actually been through abuse. I can't really equate to people calling me names on the internet or questioning me for what I've said or even being deliberately mean and using things that I've said in articles about my personal life as a kind of weapon. I can't really call that abuse. Personally, for me, my threshold for shock and fear and all of those uncomfortable emotions that a lot of people experience online, my threshold for those emotions is so high that it just doesn't strike me as appropriate to call it abuse. That's another conversation for another time. At the end of the day, if I'm going to use the internet to put out strong opinions about stuff, then I have to expect that I'm going to whip people up against me at times. I have to accept that. Whether it's talking about political correctness, whether it's talking about third wave feminism and theories like toxic masculinity and rape culture and all of these concepts that are extremely provocative to talk about, domestic violence. Then you've got the constitutional politics of Scotland where no matter what you say, you're on the wrong side of someone else's argument. This is the game that we're in. This is the game I'm in. This is the life I've chosen. And social media is a tool that I use to not only get my voice out there, but to boost my signal. And this creates opportunities for me in my own personal life in terms of all sorts of things. So you've got to take the rough with the smooth. I've decided that I'm going to not use the term cybernats anymore because I don't think it's an accurate term to use, especially by someone who is trying their hardest to lead a more rational life and failing miserably sometimes. The word cybernat is just nebulous because in actual fact there are all different gradations of nationalist online, and some are very thorough when it comes to facts and statistics, and some are very quick to resort to abuse. But the term cybernat lumps them all together in an unhelpful way, and I can see why that would be frustrating for people who feel like the term is being used to describe them. It would be doubly frustrating if the term was being used by educated, well-paid, well-established journalists. So even if you have been on the receiving end of a barrage of tweets from nationalists and hardline SNP supporters and yes voters, even if you have, search your heart, you will see that leads back to you in some form or another. Not saying that's fair, not saying it's justified that people should receive insults for putting forward their opinion. But when we move into this realm, we are fully aware of the risks, of the spoils. We know this as soon as we step in the arena. And so when we do step in the arena, we have to be prepared. If we are going to capitalise off of sharing strong opinions about things, we have to be prepared to show a bit of resilience in the face of whatever abuse comes our way in whatever volume and whatever form it takes. Because we are all hypocritical. Equally, I would say, you've got some people out there who don't care and they don't even attempt to toe any line. They don't even attempt to meet any standard of behaviour. But most of us all come from our own place. Most of us all believe that we, more than most, are trying to be rational and trying to be fair and trying not to be biased and trying not to be prejudiced. We all share that belief. It's the difference between our different perspectives. It's the deficits in our experience culturally, politically, that create these chasms of misunderstanding between our positions. And in those chasms, we pour all of our assumption to create reasoning, to explain, why could somebody think that? Why could they say that? It's so obvious that I'm here and I'm being fair. How could they just come across and say this? Why are they being nasty? But we all do it. We all get back what we put out. And that's the same in a very literal way on social media. So I'm not going to use the term cybernats anymore. I realise my opinions are controversial for some people in regards to my criticism of the SNP. I called a politician a cunt the other day, which at the time I felt was acceptable. But in hindsight, I've reflected on it and I've apologised and I've retracted the remark because it's not actually acceptable. It's not actually acceptable, even though it wouldn't bother me to get called that. It's not actually acceptable, really, because it just adds to this cauldron of hatred and misunderstanding and invective. And my only contribution to making that social media world a bit more fun, a bit less hostile, and a bit safer is to reflect on my behaviour from time to time and try and correct it in some way. I'm not perfect. I'll never be perfect. But if I do something wrong, if I do something that doesn't meet my standard, or I do something that I wouldn't like done to me, then I've got to just as publicly apologise for it as I would publicly apprehend someone else for doing it. And that's the only way we can move forward with the social media culture. People have got to take a personal decision in their individual lives to aspire to behave better, to take more time to say what they mean, to try and not generalise as much. It's impossible to meet such high standards of behaviour. We're only human beings. Language is limited. Social media is a massive variable in our lives that we have really underappreciated in terms of understanding how much of an effect it's going to have on everything that we do. This is a medium which most people would give up if they could, despite the fact that we can communicate within seconds in real time across vast distances. All of the benefits of social media are outweighed by a lot of the negative aspects of it, because as human beings, we're not physiologically set up to comprehend it. Just like we're not physiologically designed for the prevalence of sugar or hardcore pornography, all of these things that our brain misinterprets and our body has a physical reaction, our psychology has a physical reaction. It's the same with the stimulus of social media, because just like our eyes can only comprehend a certain amount of colours and our ears can only hear a certain amount of frequencies, social media is such a Pandora's box. We think we're just dealing with text on a screen, but we're dealing with loads of potential conflicts, loads of different worldviews colliding, loads of different gradients of approaching subjects, and everything is endlessly subjective. That the idea that we could extract anything from that but chaos is actually ludicrous in itself. Sometimes I wake up and I'm like, fuck, I feel quite depressed. I feel, oh my God, man, it was a horrendous day yesterday on social media. Sometimes it's not as bad now as it was for a while, but yesterday I literally did nothing. Like, I had a whole day yesterday and I fucking did nothing. I just pissed it away, scrolling through comments of people being very frank about why they think I'm a dick. Why they think I'm a sellout, why they think I'm doing independence harm, why they think this, why they think I'm a shill, an egotist, a narcissist, a sociopath, all of these things. Like, I was just sitting, like, internalising all of that stuff. A lot of the things people say about me are true. So I'm not going to make myself feel even more uncomfortable by resisting the truth about myself. I'm comfortable with my flaws, and my flaws are there for all to see. But at the same time, that discord, in part, has been created by me somewhere else along the line where I've chosen to overlook an aspect of my behaviour that is unnecessarily provocative. Anybody else out there know what I'm talking about? I've got a wee crowdfund on the go. If you think anything I do or say is valuable in any way, contribute to it, share it, tweet it. I think I've got 16, 17 days left. We're about 20% shy of the target. So if you want to throw some of your spare change there, batter in. Otherwise, I'll be fine anyway. But obviously would appreciate the support. I hope you have a good day. Take it easy.